Good morning. Here we are with another episode of the Thursday Thread. I'm Andy Lockwood and joined by my buddy and mentor and CPA business marketing and optimization guru, Mr. Neil Gilmet. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Andy. How are you today?
Doing great.
Me too.
Excited as always for our conversations because not only do I love talking about this stuff, I love hearing from you and your perspective on all these business building topics. And I honestly feel like I say this all the time, but I mean it. I feel like this is it's almost like a seminar, a mini seminar in every episode.
Well, hopefully our listeners are getting some value out of it. To do that, they're going to have to listen.
Yeah, it's two parts: listening and it's implementing, right? So there's a lot of information out there. New stuff comes out all the time. New platforms come out all the time. I don't know if you've heard about Clubhouse. That's your employee Kyle and I are both on Clubhouse, which honestly I have no idea what I'm doing with, but someone pressured me into doing it. And all the commonality or the thread, if you will, that ties a lot of stuff together is sort of summarized by what I hear a lot of buzzwords about calling it authority marketing. So that's the topic of today's conversation, which is authority marketing, which lets you close clients before they on you and your value and your services before you even meet with them.
Sounds smart to me. Enlighten me.
So
enlightened.
Go ahead.
I'm ready to be enlightened.
Okay, well, you're already enlightened. We were talking about this just a few moments ago, that this is really what we both do in different variations. So speaking in public, back in the days when you can do that, without fear of dying, giving workshops, right? You told me that that was a main driver of your success. That's actually how I found you, right? And I was in I guess I still am in a networking group, which I found semi-valuable sometimes. But the best part was when you would conduct your breakout workshops, mini workshops at the end. And that's how I got to understand your perspective, the way you think, your strategies, your ideas. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately that led to, us working together when I hired you. So that's a great example of authority marketing. Do you ever what's your take on giving presentations, and do you think it's the right thing for your CPA clients to do?
I think it's the right thing, not only for our CPA clients, but for our CPA clients. One of the things I've been saying for years, if you want people to know something, do you whisper it in the basement? Do you shout it from the housetop?
Yeah.
And too many CPAs, among other people, whisper in the basement what they're good at instead of shouting it from the housetop. So authority marketing is becoming a recognized authority in a certain area. And it doesn't take a lot to do it. It's amazing how little it takes to be perceived. And is that word perceived, perception being reality. It doesn't take a lot to be perceived as an expert in a specific niche or area. So once you become perceived as an expert, the best thing you can possibly do is have somebody else fill the room for you and be walked in the door as the expert from afar. Way back in the mid-90s, Citibank hired me to speak to CPAs. They wanted to develop relationships, referring relationships with CPAs. And they were running into a stone wall. So they said to me, could you put on workshops to help them understand the value of a referring relationship? I said, I could. But then again, you have to actually deliver the value of a referring relationship, because CPAs perceive bankers to be interchangeable commodities. One bank or another, you change banks more often than people change underwear. So we actually started a program and a training program for the business development managers at Citibank to train them how to speak to CPAs and how to deliver value to CPAs. And only then were they all tasked with bringing in 4 or 5 CPAs to do a workshop. The first workshop I did, there was 75 CPAs. I'd never spoken to 75 CPAs before. But I put a workshop together, the same as the ones I used to do for 5 or 10, just expanded it out. I ended up getting thousands and thousands of dollars worth of business from that workshop. And those workshops continued.
So first of all, it's almost like you were paid to develop leads for yourself.
Yeah.
So Citibank, I assume, paid you a fee to put this together, and then CPAs came, and some of them ended up retaining you too.
Yeah, they ended up hiring me.
Yeah.
Because what we were trying to do is explain to them how they can partner with a Citibanker.
Yeah.
To bring more value to their clients.
How did that come about? How did Citibank find you?
A fellow named Glenn Celentano, who was the head of the business bankers in New York City, from I guess about 125th Street down to the Bowery, saw me speak at another function and came up to me.
Right.
And at that time, Citibank actually spent money on things. In fact, we kept that series of workshops going. They had me touring the United States, training CPAs, training bankers how to develop workshops with CPAs. And then the week after, they'd fill the room and come back and do a CPA workshop. And that lasted for about 7-8 months until a guy named Sandy Weil came over and took over Citibank and shut down all the programs.
Yes, it's working too well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that brings up an interesting point too. You never know what is going to come from any of your efforts, including speaking. So you were giving what you probably didn't even realize was an unrelated talk at the time, and this guy from Citibank happened to see you, and that got his wheels turning, either by accident or I suspect you planted some seed in his head about possibly working together. And then he approached you about bringing your talents to Citibank, right. And then that developed into more things.
Right. We tried an experimental workshop, and he got rave reviews.
Yeah,
and developed a lot of business. In fact, I still hear from some of those Citibankers that are still around.
Yeah,
and they still talk about what they learned.
Good. Yeah, they should. So that's one example. Now I think it's it's kind of hard, to come up with relationships like that. They're going to fill the room for you, especially these days when there really are no rooms other than Zoom and other virtual rooms. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't start out by giving as many talks as possible. So I can tell you, my version of that as a college advisor is I do a combination of talks or these days webinars for public libraries, which I think would be relatively easy for CPAs to set up. And I also have other sort of, joint ventures, people who have lists such as tutoring companies. But I also do a lot of stuff on my own. So I think it's incumbent upon any person who's in business who wants to establish themselves as an authority to just start putting your information out there, like we're doing with this show. We don't necessarily get a lot of people showing up live, but on replay and between the the actual recordings and the posts that Kyle does on LinkedIn and other places, we're continuing consistently to get this message out there, and sooner or later, and it's already happened. You start having engagements with people and conversations, and it results in business.
Stream of inquiries now.
Yeah, and it's either free or really inexpensive to do these types of things, and this is, of course, something that we offer together as a service for anyone who's interested in learning how to put themselves out there. Then there's the question of what do you say, what medium or media do you choose to do? So Facebook Live is great until we all get deplatformed. So is LinkedIn. Another no-brainer that takes a little bit more effort, but surprisingly easy is writing books. So here I have a bunch of mine. I've written 4, and here's one on how to negotiate a financial aid award. So there really isn't these days. I talk to a lot of people each week who are interested in our services. I think I told you in a previous broadcast we generated 421 consultation questionnaires last year, just for my little business out of my basement.
And that was actually generating 421 qualified prospects.
Yeah. I'm still a little, shell shocked from that, but anyway, there's hardly ever a week that goes by if I'm talking to between 8 to 10 prospects, where at least 2 or 3 of them will say to me live on the phone or on Zoom, I read your book, I thought it was great, or I've been watching your videos, or I've been following you, for 6 months, or I've been following you for 3 years, and they're already indoctrinated, for lack of a better word. I don't mean that in a bad way, but they already understand, just the same way I was describing how I met you. I saw your style and heard your ideas, and they've done the same thing with me. I was doing the same thing, so we both identified you as someone who'd drunk the same Kool-Aid as I did, and then from there it's like starting on third base. But by the time that I sit down with someone after they've been through that process, which marketing people call a funnel, they already know pretty much what I charge, which is a lot. They already understand, from either what I've written, which is the same stuff that I talk about, my philosophies and our approach and how we're different, from other advisors. So then when I finally sit down with them, there is minimal to zero fee resistance. And I'd say at least 30% of the time, they're the ones who bring up working together. I have a script that you've helped me with.
They close themselves.
Yeah. And they're like, so do you think we'd be a good client for you? I get that type of question. It may not be as high as 3. It might be 2 or 3 times out of 10. Mm-hmm. Because I'm trying to, move the chains that way. I plant certain seeds before I even sit down with them.
Well, part of the marketing process is to become, and as you say, you need to become the prize.
Right.
And if you're going to become the prize, people need to qualify to work with you. Let's face it. If you are a prize, if you've got tremendously valuable knowledge and information, there are only so many working hours in the day. So you can only work with so many people. The last thing you want to do is waste your valuable time working with people who are not going to either appreciate you or implement what you teach them and become raving fans. So I want them to self-qualify out.
Yep.
I'd rather put the effort in up front so that they're looking at me and saying, well, I might not qualify, and you might not, because we're not right for everyone. And people, that's a big pull. You say we're not right for everyone. First of all, what you're saying is I'm not here to sell you. And that removes selling pressure. And then if you follow it up with a statement that those people we are right for see a significant impact in how much they save in sending someone to college, or how much they make, or the higher prices they can get here, or the more they save in taxes. If you are right for us, this is the benefit you get.
Yeah.
We're only here to explore.
And getting back to that thread of continuity that we always talk about, the earlier you do that before you speak to them, the better. In the presentation or in the follow-up, booking the appointment, this can all be automated. By the time you sit down and you make those opening statements, they're really not opening statements anymore. They're really reiterating what's already started to sink in to their wiring, and everything. And this is a key point here. So I think that you can set yourself up as an authority, but if you don't really believe it, if you're not really committed to it, you can sabotage yourself after that. So everything you do in all of your communications, before, during, and after those meetings, those discovery sessions, also has to be consistent with the fact that you are the authority. So what I mean specifically is you have to make a lot of statements like, I don't know if if we're right for each other. I don't know if I can help you. If any of this, it doesn't sound right to you, I'm not here to convince you at all. You don't need my permission, but you're more than welcome to disagree with me and decide that I'm not right for you. So all these things that reduce the tension and the pressure, those are important. But afterward, if you close the the right way, which is ask for a decision, and they don't make it, or they need a little bit more time, that's okay. But then you can't all of a sudden do a 180 and turn into commission breath,
always be closing.
sales guy. Yeah, it's got to be. You can't call them the next day and say, "So, what do you think?"
Yeah.
Which is tempting, especially when you're asking for a high investment in your services. So, our follow up that I've kind of engineered for myself, just to give an example, is either no follow up, and the reason I think I can get away with that sometimes is because everyone that I speak to and all the leads I generate, they're on my email list, and I write an email to my list, maybe 3-4 times a week. So they continue to hear from me. So I can go in if there was, I was looking yesterday at someone who I met with, I think January 6th, and today is the 28th, and I still haven't heard back from them. I was like, they sound like they'd be a really good client. Let me see. And they're still opening my emails. So I haven't followed up with them, even though we had a deadline, which passed. But life happens. It's coronavirus, whatever. I'm not here to be to bust their chops.
And they also missed the lowest price by doing that.
Well, that could be a message, that I'm going to give, because we were just talking about this. I'm raising my prices. I hired a junior person to help me. So my follow up is not going to be, hey, what'd you think? It's going to be, I have to release your spot. I haven't heard back from you. It's okay. It's not personal. I'm running a business though, and I have to make tough decisions. I thought you'd be a great fit, but I need to give your spot to another family because I haven't heard back. Of course, if something slipped through the cracks or you have any questions, absolutely let me know. But if I don't hear back from you by the close of business, tomorrow, well, I'm just going to assume that you decided to handle things on your own or another way, and we'll just delete you from our database. So, because I don't want to, bug you with any more marketing, and I don't want to, waste my time or expense. So, and they may respond and they may not. Sometimes, most of the time they don't, but sometimes they do. And then they say, "Oh no, I meant to. It's been so crazy around here. Blah, excuse," and then they hire me.
It's interesting, the authority marketing. Most people are out there trying to sell what they do. When you use authority marketing, it actually reverses it. And instead of pushing to close, you're actually kind of taking it away constantly until they get drawn to you like iron filings to a magnet.
Yep.
And you'll see them start to move in your direction. And all of a sudden, zoom, they're adhered to you. And that's a great way to do business. That's a great way. And on the other side, if any of you out there are thinking of doing workshops, we have a formula that you can use to create workshops. It's a formula that works. It's a process. It's an approach, but it makes it, number one, easy to do. So you're not sweating it and saying, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? It makes it very easy to do. And when you do it a few times, the second or third time you do it, you'd be amazed how easy it becomes, and it automatically starts to generate results automatically.
Yeah. So I have a certification program, which we've mentioned a few times, where I train other people how to be college advisors. And so there's a lot of technical training, but the biggest component of it is learning how to give presentations. And so we should probably do an episode on that. Because you have your way of doing it, I have my way. There's a lot of overlap, but we do it slightly differently.
Yep.
And to me, it's all about that thread of continuity and the prizing and the bringing them into an awareness of what they lack themselves, and then how you close. Like when I work on a presentation, I'm doing one tomorrow night. We always figure out what the close is first, and then work backwards from there. The other thing I was going to say I was going to say an unintended side effect, but at this point it's intended, is that anyone that you have to chase as from a prospect is probably not going to be a good client for you if you manage to talk them into it.
That's
and they're
right.
going to be a hassle, and the dynamic or the balance of power is going to be messed up, and they're going to be a pain in the ass to work with because you're establishing from the beginning that you have to chase them. So if they know that before they hire you, then what's going to happen? Once they hire you.
Have a little secret for everybody out there with authority marketing. The best way to be recognized as an authority in what you do is to actually become one. Strange as it seems. And you've all heard me talk about becoming conversant in your unique value proposition. Well, you need to be conversant in your unique value proposition, because when you are conversant, it becomes a regular part of your conversational repertoire. And the more you can bring people into an awareness of your expertise, and I'm going to use one of my CPAs who decided to develop a dental niche. Well, I had some books and had some experiences. So I brought him these books, and it's called The $1 Million Dentist, How to Be a $1 Million Dentist. He had to learn the language of dentistry.
Sure.
Wings, x-rays, etc. And as far as getting people to fill the room for you, at my suggestion, I had him go down to the Henry Schein representative and some of the other equipment representatives that sell equipment to dentists. And he said, would you teach me about your equipment and how it works and how it generates revenue for doctors? And they said, well, why do you want to know that? Well, how can my job is not just to be an accountant. My job is to help my clients make and keep more money. And if I don't understand how your equipment can do that, how can I say to them, there's a piece of equipment I want you to see? So that's something you're interested in. Now, you got the sales reps for dental equipment companies having a CPA wanting to learn about their equipment to promote it.
Yeah.
That's not hard to find. It's like trying to find kids who want ice cream. What was interesting.
Great idea.
Yeah, right. And the interesting thing is that all of those reps have a bunch of dentists that they work with.
Right.
So what we did was we created another workshop and had all the reps invite their dentists to come to a workshop on the business of dentistry as presented by a CPA who specializes in how to make and keep more. So it's not that hard to find people to fill the room if you just think. Use your head.
Yep. Well, and that's also a testament to him. I think you're talking about Mark, right?
Yeah.
Who identified a niche that he wanted to specialize in. And in terms of the expertise, he already had the expertise in terms of the advice to give.
Sure.
But I don't think he had it sounds like he didn't have the expertise in terms of their language.
Right.
And so the way, I think the only way that you can become conversant, other than talking to a bunch of them, which is very helpful also, is figuring out where they go, where they hang out, look at their trade magazines and
right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's a great
and
strategy.
Buy a few books. Look, there's an incredible amount of knowledge in books. One of the books we bought was a consulting series to optimize the throughput process of a dental practice.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know the throughput process of a dental practice.
Right.
And Mark didn't know it, but we do now, because all we had to look is this consulting series, and you got to see where are the hot buttons in a dental practice. Believe it or not, one of the biggest profit leaks in a dental practice is in the front desk and a calendar management.
I'm sure.
Tremendous profit leak. Another one is insurance billing. But you get to understand the business of dentistry, and then you tie it into your profession, which is accounting and tax. And all of a sudden, you are an expert. You're a gunslinger, and that's recognized.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess it takes a little bit of study, but it's really not that much, because you're really just trying to get in the heads of your prospective clients, which, going through that, the exercise of trying to figure out what niche you should go into, I would think that would evolve from understanding looking at your own book of business and who your own best clients are. So you already have a leg up on how they think and what their issues are. And then this just kind of seals the deal, I think. So that's
identifying your client. We decided, Mark and I decided early on, that his ideal client was a professional.
Yeah.
So there are only so many professions out there.
Mm-hmm.
Chiropractors are out. there's too many marketing people in the chiropractic business anyway, and they hard sell.
Even compared to dentistry, because I would think dentists also is a big marketing industry.
Absolutely, it's not really. There's not a lot.
Interesting. Wonder why.
They have what they call affinity groups, where 12 or 15 dentists in an area get together to talk about marketing.
Yeah.
It's the blind leading the blind. That's like getting 12 or 15 accountants together to talk about dentistry. It just doesn't work. But they do want to grow. And if you choose the right niche, we chose the dental profession for a lot of reasons. The competition was much less than it is for chiropractors. I hate to say it, but a lot of people don't like to work with lawyers. Mark wanted nothing to do with lawyers. He'd already gone through a divorce. So
I was going to say, he's still shell-shocked from getting a
$250,000 fee for doing one, but it was a matter of choosing, and the dentist came up. It didn't take more than a few months. And again, like myself, somebody heard him speak, and the fellow that heard him speak was a recovering dentist. Was in a financial planning business for dentists, but also taught at Cornell Dental School. So he had Mark come in and speak to his graduating dentists about the career path they were taking and what their options were. And then he gave them a discount on their tax return because they were just starting out. And that was 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Well, those doctors that graduated are now buying practices.
Yep.
So he's doing buying, selling, due diligence, etc., and they're becoming clients. So he planted the seeds, and it's like farming. You don't harvest everything the first week.
No. Yeah, well, what is teaching in class? That's authority marketing too. If you have something on the back end, besides just teaching, so that's terrific.
Yeah. And it's easy to do. Those of you that have never done it before. We have the formula. We have a formula that you can learn and apply and make it easy. Why reinvent the wheel?
No, there's the principles of public speaking, effective public speaking, in order to sell. In my case, I never I never ask for money when I'm done speaking. But I do suggest that people can set up a time to speak with me. And I would think that would probably be the best thing for CPAs to do if they were giving a presentation, because you're not asking for money. But the material, in terms of the, not only the benefits of planning for tax planning, but also the pitfalls if you don't plan, that even if you're the worst speaker, and you stumble and you say and you shove your hands in your pockets, and I do all these things. It doesn't matter because the material, if it's structured the right way, will do the job for you, and you'll only get better at it. But even if you do a crappy job, you'll still get a benefit, maybe even a client out of it.
You only get better at it.
Yeah.
I never forget the first time I spoke to 20 some odd accountants at a restaurant out in Suffolk County, and I went. I was nervous.
Yeah.
I still got inquiries. And one of the things, I'm going to give everybody precision of language. One of the things you should be saying at every one of these, if anyone has any interest in exploring how what we talked about today might be specifically relevant to their practice, give me a call.
Good. All right. So why don't we end up here? I think we just created another episode for us to do, like, how to speak to sell or something along those lines. Neil, tell everyone how to get in touch with you if they want some more information on how to potentially work with you.
Neil at cpanetwork.org. It's again, Neil, Neil at cpanetwork.org.
Good. And if you have any questions in general or specifically, you want to pop them right here in the comments section, either, if not live on replay, that's fine also. So, all right, this was great as usual. Thank you everyone for watching. Neil, thanks for sharing your wit and wisdom.
Thanks, Andy.